So here's the deal. I've been interested in finding and trying out a purple guitar for a while. There's kind of a reason why I wanted purple. Maybe I'll get into that later. I've had my eye on this Leo Jaymz Electric Violet, or something like that, Flamed Violet, something, HSS style, Strat-shaped guitar, and it comes with the amp, some other accessories. It sounds like a pretty cool package. It sells out all the time. Unfortunately, once it was delivered by Fedex, pretty solid downpour all day. They left it out in the rain directly, no effort to cover it, bag it, so the box got totally soaked. It was saturated. It was rained on for 5 hours. So I did crack the lid to let it dry out. So this is the Leo Jaymz Violet Purple HSS, some kind of whatever it's called. Leo Jaymz. Here we go. I do like the concept of the packaging. It definitely looks like it held up. I don't see parts all over the place. Styrofoam is a bit of a pain, but at least it keeps the guitar protected, because I will say some bigger brands out there don't package their guitars well at all. So here in this bundle we have the typical cheap cable with the 90-degree angle, the whammy bar or trem threads in. It's got one of those not very expensive or quality straps. I mean, they probably work, but I don't know if I'd trust this to support a guitar. It's got a digital clip-on tuner, some lessons, and free subscription for a couple months. It's got the pretty standard spare strings. I don't even know what string gauge these are. I don't know. I like to hang on to strings like this, though, because they're good in case you break a string, and it just gets you by until you do a next full change. Yeah. Your typical pointless dust cover gig bag. With this, actually looks a lot like the white residue that was on the Stritch. We've got this funky white stuff on here. I think it's a mess up from screen printing. That's my guess. It doesn't appear to be or feel like mold, so that's nice. I don't carry guitars around in these things. If you set it down, you feel like you're going to break the guitar. I've had zippers like this pop when I was just testing one of these bags out before, so the amp is pretty well stuck. I'm going to try not to blow the packaging apart. I think I'm going to check out the amp last, because I might have to bust the styrofoam to get that out. This is the main event here. 3 in a row. That's going pretty well. Got the Leo Jaymz headstock, two-tone. And there we have it. This is the Violet Flame Leo Jaymz HSS Strat-shaped guitar. Typical budget super-Strat. First impression, don't really know. Let's find out. All right, I got rid of the box. And I did get this out of the box. So we'll take a look at the amp in just a bit, but first the guitar. I'm going to start here at the headstock for first impressions. Pretty nice two-tone. I like the logo. I think it's under the clear coat. Cheap string trees. Apparently someone may have messed with the truss rod after it was painted. It looks like they colored it in with like a Sharpie or something to fill in the black, and it doesn't match where they had scraped the paint away. Pretty standard tuners. The neck feels like an unfinished neck. I think there is maybe a light satin coating on it. Catches a little bit. My hand doesn't really slide super smoothly. The frets look decent. I wouldn't say they're like super gritty, but they're also not super smooth. Maybe they're just not polished to a super fine grit. I'm just getting a little catching here where the fret ends are at least sort of exposed. They're not hanging over. Let's take a look at the action at the 12th fret. Oh boy. So we are right at just under 3. We're at like 2.75 millimeters at the 12th on the low E, and 2.5 on the high E. The action is pretty high, especially for a newbie. I think that could get frustrating, and it could be at the point where you might be at risk of pulling the note out of pitch. The note looks pretty decent. It's definitely like a cheap plastic. I mean, I think it's cut maybe a little high. I could probably park my car under this thing. Now getting to the body, the finish is not nearly as impressive as it looked in the pictures. Like, I mean, I think this probably looks fine on camera, probably looks okay from a distance, but in person, it just looks fake. Like, it looks printed, I'm sure it is, but it really doesn't look quality. It doesn't look nearly as good as it did in the pictures. The trem is decked. Yeah, I mean, it's flat to the body. It's got the plastic under the neck plate. I'm totally fine with that. If you want to get rid of it, just take it off. The finish in the body routing is kind of messy here. The humbucker is very close to the strings, and there's not much room. This strap button is kind of loose, it turns. If I were just to rate the initial first impressions, based on the picture, I'd say like 4.5 out of 10. The finish has like smudges and almost like streaks. Yeah, I do see some scratches on the bottom. Scratched right here like it was set down. Later in the video, stay tuned for my 3-word review as well as expectations versus reality. Let me tune it up. So the tuners feel kind of sloppy, a little like inconsistent, you know, kind of jumpy and, dare I say, gritty. They feel cheap. The 5th string tuner, the A string, it's sloppy. It's hard to turn, then it's easy. It's just kind of all over the place. I'm hearing some buzz even with this crazy action. Tuning the A, it feels like I'm going to snap the string. Hardly wants to turn. Okay. All right, so I went through and tuned it, and everything's back out. So this, I'm not hopeful. Testing, 1, 2. All right, so it was a little bit painful, but I got the thing kind of in tune. This is the hardest it's ever been to tune a guitar. Yeah. So I'm still healing here from a pretty rough, nasty cut here on my finger. I'm gonna mostly just focus on tones rather than trying to really play anything, since I'm not really able to use my first finger here. Yeah, I guess we should see how the amp sounds. I'm using 2 shotgun mics just to get representation here of the amp. This is a 20-watt amp that's included. It's branded with Leo Jaymz. So this actually has a gain control, what looks to be an overdrive, but it's not labeled, it just says on, a tone knob, and a volume. So I figure using the shotgun mics hopefully will capture the sound of the room a little bit better. Wow, it's definitely got some power. So I just had the gain and the volume on 1, and the thing was pretty loud. Interesting. So engaging that single coil in position 2 and position 3, the middle coil, definitely introduces a lot of noise. Starting with the humbucker. It's kind of rattly. This thing is like, I'd have to say, this is too loud. We're falling out of tune. I'll be honest, it wasn't perfectly in tune to begin with because I was fighting with the tuners. I definitely heard some pinging and popping in the bridge on the saddles. Those are gonna have to go. Same with the tuners immediately. And the nut. The nut is super cheap. It looks okay, but it's super cheap. It did feel when I was tuning like there was quite a bit of binding here in the nut, maybe at the string trees. I'm just not hopeful that this is gonna stay in tune. So I'm just gonna go through the pickup selection switch. So we've been in the humbucker. An open chord, I just wanna show the variation here. Tune twice. Position 2 now. middle pickup. Position 4. And 5. So anyway, now is time for my 3-word review of this. Yeah, probably not. So the tone is better than I was expecting, both from the amp and the guitar. I mean, I don't love it, but based on the cosmetic issues and the feel of it, I expected it to sound worse. I am having issues with the amp though, considering it's so loud at such a low volume, only louder from here. I don't particularly like playing it, the amp I mean, and I'm not particularly fond of the guitar for previously stated reasons. So a couple things are a big issue here. The strings are so close to the humbucker that if I lower the action, I'm going to be playing into the humbucker and smashing it with my pick, but the humbucker can't go any lower really. Also with the action at 3 or maybe 275, I'm still getting quite a bit of buzzing. But this whole setup issue here, that's a problem. I don't think that's something someone should have to do when they purchase a new guitar. I don't think someone should have to shim the neck. I don't think someone should have to pay for a neck to get shimmed. Let me know in the comments, would you keep it, knowing that it needs probably a shim and a full setup? This is more setting up to fix issues than it is setting up to make it fun for me to play. This just feels cheap, and honestly, I've purchased 2 Glaries from Temu, and both sounded and played better than this. And they were $60 each, $70 each. So this is kind of an issue with the amp. So I'm barely touching the volume knob, and it goes from static and nothing to loud, just barely touching the knob. Functionally, this thing is a mess. This is very light. I'm guessing 6 pounds. Haven't put it on the scale, but it's definitely light. Now this is expectations versus reality. I was expecting a visually appealing, well-playing guitar with lots of potential for upgrades, for mods, with, you know, a nice decent amp or an okay amp and some accessories. What I think this is I do not recommend this purchase. I think there are so many better options out there, and I'm seeing really good reviews for Leo Jaymz. So I'm thinking this is not one of their strong models. I don't think it's worth the price. Some of the ones I've tried recently, like the Grote, the Gearet, now especially the T's, in the same exact price point, miles beyond this. This does not come close. So Leo Jaymz, if you somehow see this video, and I've heard such good things about your guitars, I'd like to be proven wrong. Thanks again for taking the time to unbox this guitar with me and to check it out. I'm pretty disappointed because I've been wanting a purple guitar for some reasons that I'll share later when I do unbox the purple guitar that I'm going to keep, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to send this back, but I know I'm definitely not going to keep it.